we're going to survey and edit the reciprocating saw 3D model. And after completing the tutorial, you'll be able to use the view cube, navigation, display and orbit tools to survey and edit CAD models in Fusion 360. You'll also be able to use the browser in Fusion 360 to view and edit 2D and 3D elements, such as sketches and bodies. So with our file open, we can take a look at both the 2D and 3D elements that make up this 3D model of the reciprocating saw. In order to do that, let's take a quick look at some of the main navigation tools that we're going to need to understand in order to survey the model. Firstly, in the top right-hand corner, we have the view cube. We can use the view cube to rotate the model to get different views. Or we can select different faces using the view cube. And we can even drag the view cube around in order to orbit our model. And if we ever get lost, all we need to do is click the home icon to return us back to the isometric view. Additionally, we have navigation tools at the bottom of the screen, just above the timeline, such as the orbit tool, and I can use my mouse to click and orbit around the model. And if I ever get lost, I can just click the home icon. We also have a pan tool that allows us to pan around the model. We have a zoom tool that allows us to zoom in and out of the model. Additionally, we have a zoom window tool, which allows us to draw a window which we can zoom into, allowing us to see much more detail in the model. And we also have a tool that allows us to fit to window, fitting the model inside our screen. Fusion also has display settings, such as visual styles, and that allows us, for example, to view the model in its wireframe. I'm just going to set it back to the default shaded with visible edges. Additionally, we have mesh displays, and we can change the environment, some effects, and we have many options to control the object visibility. We can control the camera, so I'll set the camera to perspective with ortho faces. And we can also have a ground plane offset if we wish. Additionally, we have grid options, so we could check the layout grid, and this might help us with some of our measurements and dimensions while we're modelling. But I prefer to work without the grid, so I'm going to switch it back off. And finally, we have viewports. In Fusion, we can use multiple views, which you can use at the same time while modelling. I prefer to use the single view, so I'll toggle that back on. In addition to the view cube and the navigation tools, one of the other tools that we can use to survey our model in Fusion is the browser. The browser comprises of all the elements that make up the 3D model. And these can include various bodies, and in this case the outer casing of the saw, which is a sculpted body created in Fusion's Sculpt workspace using the freeform modelling tools. The browser also consists of sketches. If I just toggle off the visibility of the bodies for a moment so we can see them. The sketches are the two-dimensional elements of the model, and we use to build the parts of the model that involve the parametric modelling. I'll just turn on the visibility of the bodies again. The browser also includes components. If I click to expand, we can see that components include bodies, although they are different to bodies. If I use the zoom window tool in the navigation bar, I can zoom into this component, which is the trigger, and I can show you one of the key characteristics of components, in that they're free moving. So we can click components on the model and we can drag them around with our mouse. We can't do this with bodies because they're not free moving components. I'll click undo to revert the trigger move. In Fusion, we'd normally use components to make assemblies. If I click to expand the assembly of the inner workings of the saw, click home on the view cube and then click to turn off the visibility of all the bodies, which will hide the visibility of the saw outer casing, I can see a list of sub-assemblies and components which I can also click to expand. So let's expand the motor sub-assembly. We can see there are a number of other components that make up the motor sub-assembly, and in each one of these components there are also bodies. and I can toggle on and off the visibility of each body in every component of the saw design. And I can use the browser to view and edit all two-dimensional and three-dimensional elements of the 3D model. So Fusion 360 includes, in the main, bodies, components, assemblies and sub-assemblies, and sketches. These are the 2D and 3D elements that make up any 3D model in Fusion 360. This completes our quick view of 2D and 3D modeling in Fusion 360. In the next tutorial series, we're going to be creating a simple 3D CAD model. We'll begin by sketching the 2D elements of the model, and then we'll move to the three-dimensional modeling, and we'll turn our 2D sketches into bodies. Finally, we'll create technical drawings and document the simple 3D model that we create.